Hello, welcome to Mid Academy Alliance Film Dive Podcast, episode 52.
52.
You're Dana, I'm Brandon.
G'day, welcome to our podcast.
And what are we covering today?
We're going to talk about some films.
Some films, and more precisely, Pixar films.
We're going to talk about the two films that came out in 2020 for Pixar.
Indeed. And they were Onward and Soul.
Onward and Soul. For two very different kind of films.
Mm-hmm.
They both have their own language. The Soul is probably the most Pixar-y of them.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Without a doubt.
But I guess if we're going to start, let's just start from the beginning. Start with the first one that came out. It came out pretty much just as the pandemic was hitting.
Yeah.
So it really didn't get to have a good go at it.
When the trailer first came out, I was like, I don't know. It seems more like the Good Dinosaur kind of vibe I'm getting from it, where it seemed like like you said, a not so Pixar-y kind of film.
I think that's the biggest thing for this film is the language of it, the visual language of it, the art direction. To me, it really felt like a DreamWorks film.
Yes.
And that's what it had, that DreamWorks language. And DreamWorks, every time they bring out a film, they're getting better and better.
Yeah.
So we're getting onto the stage where
it's hard. The lines are blurred a bit.
They're getting very, very blurred. So, and Onward really, if you'd cut out the Pixar intro, and then chucked in DreamWorks, I wouldn't have blinked.
Should do it.
Wouldn't have blinked an eye. I would have thought, okay, yeah.
You should do the DreamWorks version.
I would have thought, great DreamWorks film. And a part of it to me is, obviously it's the visual language, but it's also, I think, the choice of actors is the other thing.
Yeah.
Which is a very DreamWorks thing to do.
Yeah, put big name actors of the time.
That is usually the thing that DreamWorks would do.
Because they're like, we don't have the skills, but we've got the actors.
Yeah. And so Pixar have always been really good at picking these not necessarily huge actors. They're not the biggest in the world. They're usually, doing their own thing. They're known, but they're not,
apart from like Tom Hanks or something.
Yeah, I mean that was when they were starting and they were trying to find their feet.
But they got Tim Allen, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like a TV actor.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
they do a lot of TV actors and stuff like that. Guys from Cheers, they did the pig's voice or whatever, So like, I see where you're going. Like Chris Pratt and Tom Holland, I wasn't feeling it. As soon as I saw them put on it, I was thrown by that. I was like,
yeah, like they pull it off. Obviously, they're fine actors. They're good actors, but they are typical. It's what you'd expect, and that's the.
It didn't feel inventive.
It didn't.
Or creative.
That's right.
It felt like the movie's not strong, or this. It doesn't feel like. I felt like they didn't have confidence in their creative movie. Yeah,
and if we talk a little bit about the environment. The whole this location, this otherworldly location. So to me, it felt very. It was kind of like the Shrek formula. Yeah. Grab something and turn it around a little bit, and that comes back down to the whole DreamWorks thing. But it's not what I'd expect a Pixar film to do.
No,
where you'd find something that but you're just going to change it around a little bit.
To be honest, the parts I enjoyed of the film was like the more fantastical elements. If they have done a fantasy film, gone full on into fantasy, and not tried to bring in that it's in a real world and they're like human beings, like I just did not. That didn't stick with me. It just did not quite, mesh.
Didn't quite feel like it hit the mark for me.
Yeah, it wasn't creative. They weren't creative enough with integrating those.
And if we think about other films from Pixar, you got Monsters Inc., which they invented a whole world of monsters for that.
Yeah.
And then they kind of sprinkled the real world in it. But we didn't see the real world. We hardly saw the real world.
Yeah. So
we got other films like WALL-E. It's the same thing. It's a completely new world, and then they'd sprinkled the human element into it. But again, that wasn't.
That's right. Even Finding Nemo, it's a whole underwater world. Yeah. And then you get that smidge of,
Yeah. And I can say the same thing with everything. In Toy Story, same thing. Bugs Life. Everything. Bugs Life. You get those little glimpses of the real world.
The Bigfoot coming down.
Yeah.
And I think that's where they totally missed the mark with this film, is because it's not integrating, it's not being creative with it. It's kind of just like, it feels like something that's been done before.
Yeah.
And Pixar should never be labelled under that. They shouldn't
Absolutely.
be. They should be the guys that are trying stuff that are very creative and very inventive and on the front lines of pushing the boundaries.
What about the quick question I want to ask you? Where did you land with the whole father element of it? That I guess the soft mushy side of the story.
I felt like it was I felt like it was needed in the film because it was lacking an emotional weight, which all Pixar films should have, and any decent animation usually has to bring in the heart. But I didn't quite get it.
Yeah. Well,
you know what I mean?
To be honest, it missed the mark for me also.
Yeah. I just didn't quite feel it. I was like, where are they going with this? What are they? I don't know.
You know, there were some people that were saying they were crying with the whole thing. Yeah. But even the idea that we didn't actually see the dad too much in it. Like he was off in the distance and they were having their sad moment and we're meant to feel, but it's like I can hardly see them.
Yeah, and he's just legs half the time.
Yeah, and he's just legs and...
Like, I'd like to feel that those ideas and stuff.
I mean, the character development was okay. It was okay. You know, you had you got the brother that's very
the
geeky guy, and he just doesn't fit in. Then we got the other guy that's overconfident. And they're all trying to throughout this period find the middle ground between them, and try and find some normality between their two personalities.
I still found them both written quite strangely. Like both characters I found, even for Tom Holland and Chris Pratt, I found like they were both not written to their strengths.
Absolutely.
I felt like there was aspects to their characters that were working, and I felt like they should go down those typical roads with those actors, but they didn't. And it was really kind of, the whole time I'm kind of like scratching my head, like I just could not work out the Chris Pratt brother character, because he was meant to be the more geeky one that was into the sort of the D&D, board game, thing. So he was more into all that kind of stuff, and then you got the Tom Holland character that was like the introvert, not so much introverted, I suppose he was more the weaker...
Yeah, well, I don't know. I saw him as the geeky guy.
The insecure one.
But I guess that's the distinction they didn't really make very well.
Yeah, they were kind of blurred a bit.
Yeah, because I saw him as the guy that he didn't want to talk to anyone, so I assumed he was the geeky guy. And he was one of those people
he seemed sure of himself though, and the Chris Pratt character seemed like he was clumsy and dorky, and he was.
But he had the confidence, so it's hard to.
And Tom Holland was like embarrassed of him.
Yeah. Well, it's very hard to really understand that.
Yeah, so I initially would have thought the Chris Pratt character, the character would have been the confident one, the one that was like, the sporty jock one, maybe the one that was, the ideal brother, the older brother, the one that the younger one looks up to, almost like Stand By Me. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah. And
then you got the younger brother that's very insecure, more geeky, more into introverted and finds it hard to make friends. He's at that phase in his life where he's struggling a bit. And I just thought them going on that road journey was going to try and stitch them together, and I thought they were going to have like a relationship where they weren't best brothers, but by the end of it they were really
I think the biggest thing between, if we're staying on the relationship between them, I guess the thing that didn't miss the mark, they didn't really develop those characters strong enough at the beginning for us to understand
who they were.
We've got because I really couldn't figure out who the Chris Pratt character was. I had no idea. I was like, is he geek? Is he not? Is he cool? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
He's very confident. It's very hard to understand.
See? Yeah.
And so really they should have been more clear about their character, but also the relationship between the two.
Each other. And their relationship with the dad and the mum.
Yeah.
I just found the whole thing just fucking weird. And then you got the stepdad as well, the centaur guy. And it's just like, what is... I don't know.
Do you know who directed it?
Dan Scanlon. Now, this guy is one of the lesser Pixar dudes. He's worked on Monsters University.
Right.
And Cars. He's obviously not... He was a storyboard artist. And this was his first directing gig.
Right,
as I can see it. But yeah, like, let's have a look here quickly. Maybe not. No, he did. He directed Monsters University. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, that's
sense.
the other. It does. 'Cause that's the other film that missed the mark for me.
Yeah.
So
I just watched that again the other day as well.
Yeah.
And it's better than I remembered it, because the first time I couldn't even watch it, like when it first came out. I think it was like 2-3 times. I was just like.
And going back, I guess we'll just quickly talk about that one. It's the same thing. It was trying to make a real world out of something that isn't a real world. You know, I always saw, even though it had very similar things, the monsters world. I don't know. It always felt different to me. And then they were trying to bring in all of the human colloquial elements, and that didn't gel very well for me. So I don't know. That's just mine.
It was kind of like, in the first Monsters Inc., you're kind of like trying to get invested into this monsters world, and everything's kind of more upside down. So you kind of, you know, and every time they kind of bring in like something that was more relatable for a human, or the viewer, or the audience, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and then because they always react to human things. It's like, whoa, what is this? Because and because of that, it was always like, right, they don't understand the human world, but then trying to make everything human-esque.
Yeah, I just found it was a weird blend again. I don't think they quite got to that inventiveness level. Yeah, obviously Pete Docter knows how to integrate different worlds. And we'll get to him very soon.
Very soon. That one will be good talk. Good chat about.
Yeah, and I mean, even the music for Onward, I don't remember it. It's all very forgettable.
It was all very mainstream expected. It's very what you'd expect from a film, from an animation, but it's not what you'd expect from a Pixar animation. And
I just think, you know, they just needed to dive headfirst into a fantasy world. Like,
absolutely.
Just go nuts, you know?
And that could have been been done pretty easy.
Like wizards.
It's all art design. It's really art design, because there wasn't too much conversation about. I mean, there was, you know, the whole opening, and they talk about it.
Yeah, like that whole start bit, I was like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I get to the real world, sort of human-esque side of things, I was bored.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. Onward. I'd probably give it like, I don't even know if I should give it a rating, but it feels like. I'd give it like a 5 out of 10, you know? Yeah. Because I can't even go back to put it back on, you know?
I mean, for me, if it was done by another company, fine, it's a streamer. You give it a watch with your Netflix subscription.
Yeah, whatever.
But as a Pixar film, expecting a lot, getting excited for a new Pixar film, because, you know, haven't been pushing out as many as they have in the past, so... especially new IP.
Yeah, new IP more so,
so, I don't know.
I feel like
it was a bit of a letdown.
I feel like they dropped the ball again, you know, from Good Dinosaur, Cars 3. You know, the Pixar descent is still happening, as well as Ascent. Like, they've got this weird thing going on where they're up and down and up and down.
Yeah, they're going to follow the path of Disney by the sounds of it, where they've been up and down as well. So,
what are they up and down with at the moment?
Well, at the moment they're pushing. They're doing really good at the moment. They've had their moments in the past, though.
Definitely.
The past 50 years, there's been a lot of up and down.
Oh, massively. Yeah, they've done the biggest up and downs.
So.
I think they're doing really well.
But at the moment, I think they're doing better than Pixar at the moment. The Disney
like Frozen
stuff.
2 and you know, all those.
They've all been doing really well.
Moana.
That was
really they remind me of the golden era of Disney, which is what they should be doing, like Frozen 2, Moana, like, and we've got that level.
We've got a new one coming out this year, a new princess film, Chinese.
Yeah, the dragon kind of one.
Raya. So that's another one that's going to be
straight to Disney Plus.
Disney Plus, but you got to pay the $35.
Oh yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. But I think they're doing cinemas as well. So I'd probably, if I'm going to see it, I'll see it at cinemas. Yeah. If I'm going to spend money, I'm going to experience it.
Yeah. I'll probably go to the drive-in.
Yeah.
I'm really digging the kind of visual aesthetic they're going for with the Disney ones at the moment.
Yeah.
Like even the branding, like the title, the way they're kind of summarizing the vibe and the feel of the film. like from Moana to
Yeah.
Frozen. They just feel really solid. Like
And I
they're
think
really working that out.
What clicked for me was because I was very upset when they got rid of the
Zootopia.
the 2D animation
Yeah,
hand drawn style, because that was their
transition.
thing. And then they started seeing all this garbage. And
Yeah.
now I think what clicked for me is when they figured out the animation language, replicating that for 3D. And as soon as they did that, the first one was Tangled. As soon as they clicked with that animation style, I was like, okay, all right, I can see a future for this now, because it did harken back to that old style Disney animation, but yet I guess it is modernized, and they've only really expanded the visual, the scope. Everything is becoming more realistic, but at the same time still has its own style.
They're really mastering the human character designs, I reckon.
Yeah.
The shapes and the worlds, the environments, and the way they're blending the two. And like here, we're supposed to be talking about Onward and Pixar, and
But bring it back to Pixar. Like humans has always been a big issue with Pixar, because they started out so early on in the animation games.
Yeah.
Look at the animations of their humans.
Toy Story and stuff.
It was shocking.
Yeah, the toys looked more realistic than
that's
the humans
right.
did. Yeah.
And so that's something they've always struggled with. They're
shied away from.
They're a lot better at it now.
Yeah.
Obviously with technology, but I think the animation style for Disney, they've really bang on, because it's not about being realistic. It's about
it's caricatures.
It is. It's the style. It's the style of the Disney style rather than trying to be realistic.
They've got a whole philosophy in the 12 Angry Men. Oh, 12 Angry Men. The 12 Wise Men? Or
Nine old men.
I think it's 9 old men.
Yeah.
12 Angry Men. They probably were pretty angry.
Probably,
yeah, I mean, they got a whole philosophy, and they got a whole history.
They wrote the book on animation. That's really what they
and that's all they needed to do.
Actually did write the book on animation.
Yeah, and I think when Disney failed is when they turned their back on all that. And they did cheap stuff, tried to take shortcuts.
Yeah.
Hunchback of Notre Dame 2, Lion King 2, 3, and all those straight to DVD. How many frames can we cut back? How many
the Disney tune,
detail can we take out?
Studio cheap stuff.
All that stuff. Yeah. And I think that's where they really fucked themselves up.
And you probably don't want to hear this, but a lot of that was done in Sydney.
Well, if I was doing them here in Sydney, I probably wouldn't have been complaining, but I'd rather be working on Moana 2 than Hunchback of Notre Dame 2 back then.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
To be honest, I'm just relieved Disney has found their voice, even though like this mega, behemoth of a capitalist pig.
But
of
putting the business
company,
side apart, we're just looking at the artistic, the whole creative side of the things. Obviously, the business side is another conversation. But it's sticking again to the artistic, the creative side of what Disney actually means.
Yeah, and I look forward to sitting down and watching those films now with my family, and and that's the beauty of it. It's not like I'm sitting there cringing. It's I can watch Moana 5 times. I can watch Zootopia 10 times, and Big Hero 6, and Pixar. I'm not doing that with. Apart from Incredibles, because my son loves it. But Incredibles 2, I mean, I didn't like that as much when it came out, but I've grown to love that one and respect that one even more so now after watching it, another 5 more times. Even Cars, I've watched that with my son a few times, and I've gone, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. It's not great, but it's not, But Onward and The Good Dinosaur, I feel like they're very subpar, as well, and ultimately just don't feel Pixar.
Yeah, I just think they didn't know their audience for those. I
they
think
didn't. Ultimately,
who's this for? Is it anyway?
They seem like teenagers, like they're going for. But I don't know. I don't know.
I guess moving on to the next one, we don't want to be stuck on the same one for the whole time. Yeah. Let's change the mood. Let's talk about soul. Let's put the soul back into Pixar.
A whole lot of soul, baby.
And this one I actually watched on YouTube. There's a conversation.
Oh, cool.
with the director.
Pete Doctor, the director.
Pete, man, he's a legend.
There
was a conversation. It went for like half an hour.
Oh, I've got to see that.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. It was really good. Just where he talks about the whole process. Like at one stage, their main character was going to be an actor, but then they thought that was going to be a bit too, it just seemed like entitled, and they had that kind of wrong attitude.
Yeah.
So they ended up falling on this whole idea of the soul and the soul, like the music and.
Brilliant angle. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
you know, ballsy.
It's the right kind of music for the concept soul. You know, it is. You know that whole old style music. What is it? Blues? No,
jazz.
Jazz.
Like...
Start that again.
Damn. Yeah.
Anyway, the jazz music really fitted well with soul, because when you hear someone talk about jazz, that's what they talk about. They're saying it's the whole about the soul. It's all about feeling it.
Yeah, jazz is like soulful music.
Especially if you've, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but La La Land, the film.
Bits of it.
So in that film, it's the same thing. They talk about jazz music, and they talk about that it is, you feel it from the soul, and you let it sort of take over, and you become in this, world, and it's almost like each musician is in their own little world, and they're trying to all, have their own little piece of that track, part of that song, and they're all trying to almost battle it out, and it's more of a less of a more rehearsed kind of thing. It's more whimsical and spontaneous, and that comes back down to this idea of the soul. And I think that name was probably really apt for this film. Yeah,
it's almost just brought the soul back into Pixar. It's reignited their engine, and that everyone's faith in the company, I think, is just proved once again. Pete Docter has given Pixar its voice back, and its soul.
His last one,
Inside Out.
Again, you can see those similarities in the two, because it's all about this, this higher, trying to, explain or bring down to earth this whole, higher consciousness almost. So you can see his thing, but even like
there's parallels there. Yeah.
There is I think what I like about him is that he can try and get to the essence of what the film's about, and stick with it, and not worry about all this other fluff, all the other noise. It's just about, right, we're going to talk about the soul, and we're going to talk about what life is, and what it means to have passions, and what it is to want something, and strive for something,
and what is the meaning of it all.
And it ends, I don't want to give too much away, but it ends on not where you expect it.
Nah.
And I think that's a perfect ending for it.
It's beautiful.
I
was just blown away. By the approach to the film, because it's very mature.
Yeah.
Very mature. Inside Out, it's got mature elements to it. I've just watched that again recently, but nowhere near as wise. I feel like Pete Docter's grown as a man as well, as a human being, and as a father as well,
and as an artist, I believe too.
And also, an artist, absolutely. And I feel like he's at that level now where this film definitely should get the Academy Award. Not that matters, but just out of respect, because it's dealing with some really heavy elements, and
very heavy.
It treats it very respectfully and creatively and artistically inventively. I don't know how to say that, but I mean, wow. And it's ballsy, and putting an African American as the lead, like Jamie Foxx, and just the character himself, and in that world, really celebrating that New York jazz scene, and the people, that the culture, the African Americans that have given New York its soul, and music its soul. They've played such an important role in humanity, and they need to be recognised and given all the due props necessary, because they have been there the whole time and given more than just soul. And and they need it, and it's great, you know, and that's why I think this film it should be celebrated and put into the Hall of Fame as something that's going to go down as history.
Well done. Well done. Well said.
And I love that they used the jazz musician John Baptiste to do all the jazz arrangements. He's a guy that's very well known over there in the jazz scene, and he's worked on many things. And not only that, you got Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, you know, from Nine Inch Nails, and just merging those two, the perfect blend of artistry.
Yeah,
you know?
and it's nice that they did try. Like, you know, normally would say don't change something from the Pixar, not necessarily formula, but the that whole idea, because Pixar usually would have that big giant orchestra with 100, you know,
the
musicians.
The usual kind.
But
of
I think they stepped across it correctly. They stepped across it right, where the music felt like it belonged. It felt like it was right. This is the right film to try something different.
Absolutely. It was the time.
It was.
And the perfect film for it. And it's a great amalgamation of everything that is Pixar, you know, and what they should be embracing is life in general. They've grown up. They've been around for a few decades now. They're at that point now where they should be challenging the viewer, challenging themselves and humanity as a whole, embracing it all, not shying away too much, you know, and just being daring with their art. You know?
Yeah, coming down to what you said, the art. Let's talk about the artistic direction.
I love that.
They're so brave to be able to play with these characters that are effectively wire. They're wire figures.
Yeah.
And play with that whole world that they did. You know, when they're all walking up to, you know, quote unquote heaven or whatever you want to call
Terry, and all those guys. Yeah.
Oh, that whole environment.
Oh, beautiful environment.
And it's really the idea in that conversation. If you're interested, watch the conversation that I watched on YouTube with Pete Docter. He talks about it's about finding something that doesn't really exist, something that is not really, you know, when people talk about the spirits and these kind of things, they don't have a physical presence. Yeah. And it's trying to put a physical presence to something that doesn't have one.
I think they approach that in such a marvelous way. Like, it's so creative the way they transition and use just pure animation and color and pixels, you know, the way they can just use that to create these otherworldly environments and these almost ethereal environments.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
you know, transcending moments in the film where you feel like they really captured those things in the right way. And I watched it with my dad. My son was even transfixed for a good 40 minutes. For a kid that's a year and a half, to sit there for 40 minutes and not move, you know, just to stare at the screen and be absolutely transfixed is telling. You know, from my dad that's 60 odd years old to my son who's a year and a half, to me who's, you know, in between that, 32, you know, and we're all just sitting there watching it 3 generations deep, and we're all loving it.
And that's, I think, the powerful thing with Pixar is that they are, or, you know, there is that anyone can take something away from it. And I think, you know, going back to the other film we're talking about, that lacked that. It didn't have that whole something can watch it, anyone can watch it, and take something away from it. And that's the key with the Pixar film. That's their thing. Is it's all about. There is those on the surface. It's fun and playful, and you know, you've got all this stuff happening. You know, you've got clownfish, or you've got toys that are alive. You know, so the kids can love it. But dig down a little deeper, and it's, you know, you've got these interactions with these characters, and then dig down even further down, and you can see the soul of these characters, these people, and the interactions, and what it means to belong, and what it means to not belong, and what it means to there's a lot of, every film explores something different, but it comes down to what it's like to have a home, be loved, have a family, these are the themes that Pixar are very good at talking about. And watching a film that's talking about, you know, being a family and what it means to be a family, and watching that with your family is powerful.
Yeah.
Is powerful. And when they try these cheap shit that doesn't even, I shouldn't swear either, but these cheap films that doesn't explore that, it doesn't have that same connection.
Yeah, and I guess it's just like we have said before, it's finding those solid, relatable threads. If you can't make a short film out of it and sort of summarize where you're going with it, if you can't say it in a sentence or be able to emote what the film is about very clearly up front, you know, the film is not working quite right.
Yeah.
You know, it's not strong. The themes aren't strong. And an animation to be on that level needs to really have that clear
identity. It needs to have a clear identity and not overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
Strip it back.
Yeah, strip back.
Strip it back to stick to
what's needed. And I love the way the cat's involved.
Yeah.
Just bringing some humor into it. Because the film is so funny. You know, and that's the beauty of it, because it is hilarious, you know, and they treat the humor brilliantly. I love all the voice acting in it. You know, you got Tina Fey from 30 Rock, from Saturday Night Live. She's brilliant, playing 22. You got Graham Norton, you know, the TV presenter. They make him play that funny character Moonwind. And then you got many different actors playing the Jerrys and the Terrys. The guy from IT Crowd. You've got Questlove from The Roots. I'm not quite sure who voiced the guy from, I mean, even West Study. I'm not sure the guy who voiced the wiry guy that went on the ninja kind of mission to find out who, you know,
the New Zealand person?
No, you know you know, there's Terry and Jerry and all those guys, and he's the counter. The guy that's like, there's someone that's gotten through that shouldn't have.
I can't remember. I don't know. Oh, it was a very
you gotta watch it again. But I love
I remember the character.
And he's like hiding in the, you know, the way he would just sort of like be in the real world, and he's like hiding in the traffic light. And
I liked at the end where it's like, oh, how are we going to count for this? And he's like, look over there.
It's just a little thing like that. Like, it's so simple, but it just works. It's the right place at the right time. You know, it's a great film. Pete Docter, he's a master. Yeah. He's proved it, you know, how many times now? He's done what? He did Monsters Inc. Did he do anything else between that and Inside Out? No, I don't think he did.
Well, he was one of the original team at
founders,
you know, at Pixar, and that's you got these original directors,
so strong.
You know, it started off with their whole identity was born, you know, by the founder of it, John Lasseter. You know, he's not there now. Obviously, he had a whole issue that dealt with, which you know, but you still have these original people that. Yeah, okay.
That's the one.
Yeah,
there you go.
You got these original who were there and do understand their identity, who can carry that.
And I think Pete Docter's been the most consistent. You know, he's the one that has matured.
I think so.
Whereas Lasseter went the other way. You know, he started off with Toy Story and Bug's Life, and
then he was getting cars, and he was getting.
That's about it. I mean, he's almost like a one-trick pony to an extent. Yeah. I can't take anything away from the man, because he still did what he did to get where he was, and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm sure he still played a massive role.
And then after, I mean, to be fair, after Cars and Cars 2 and all that, that's when he moved on and was in charge of overseeing everything.
Yeah, he wasn't on the front lines of the animation, I suppose.
You know, who knows what he's doing these days, but at least we can appreciate what he started. Yeah. Sticking on the creative side of it, and not get involved with the politics of it. Nah. We can just reflect on what he started and the culture that was developed, and I think they need to be careful about what their identity is, and not becoming DreamWorks, not becoming another, seeming like another studio.
They need the 9 wise men, and I felt like Pete Docter was one of those. You know, I felt like he was. You know, Lasseter was one, Pete Docter was one, Andrew Stanton, the guy that Finding Nemo, was the other. Yeah. And he's gone off too. He's been doing live action.
Yeah. That's right.
So he hasn't gone back to Pixar either. So I'm not sure what's happened there, because I would have expected him to do something else. But you know, it's weird. Like, I guess they've got to sort of bring up new talent as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
now, I understand they need to evolve, but I think, you know, they just, unfortunately, they didn't really necessarily evolve more than just do something that I'd expect another studio to do.
yeah,
So I think they need to try and keep their own voice, especially with the competition these days,
very
and
strong.
the strong ties to, you know, Disney and all those. You
They
really
need to keep a separation there.
Yeah. So the new film Luca's coming out this year. So we've got Luca.
In June.
It seems in June. So this one seems interesting. I'd be curious to see, you know, all the trailers and everything that comes out that can explain a little bit more about the film. So
yeah, there's not much released about it at all. Just a couple of visuals,
Yeah.
art style. But it looks like they're going for a really cool art style with it. So
yeah, it looks like they're having a bit more fun with it. So
yeah, I'm
it'll be
interested in
good.
that one. Yeah, it's, you know, they did Coco. It seems like another something like
Yeah.
in that kind of vein where they're going
Mediterranean
around the world,
flesh to it,
or
yeah.
European, or
Yeah, all that kind of
Spanish, or
stuff.
something around there.
So
Anyway, that was our
that's our conversation.
Pixar Condo
Um,
podcast.
Again, leave some comments.
What was your favourite Pixar film?
Let
What's
us
your
know.
thoughts?
Yeah.
What'd you prefer, Onward or Soul?
And did you agree with what we said about these films? Let us know if you disagreed. It'll be interesting to see someone else's point of view,
Yeah.
not just our point of views. It'll be interesting.
We get
So-
sick of hearing each other.
Yeah, and we always usually on each other's the exact same page as each other. So it'll
Generally,
be nice.
yeah.
It'll be nice to have someone, maybe someone younger, someone older, who has a different view on things. If you're listening to this on any of our podcast channels, make sure you jump onto our YouTube, where you can see our beautiful faces in the flesh, and we've got all sorts of other videos. We've got a lot of content on there. So other than that, I guess we'll leave it there. So thanks for watching or listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Like, subscribe, comment. Adios.
See you later.
Thanks for watching Mini Academy Online. If you'd like to explore more of our content, click on this or click on that. Like and subscribe, thumbs up, ring bells, do a dance, sing a song, drink a hot cup of tea or coffee, and I'll see you in the next one.